Right guys, in this video I wanted to talk about something that you should make sure that you do in regards to how you train before you try to add more training volume. And this is something that I think is really important because in the current exercise science landscape, you get a lot of people that are very heavily focused on training volume and doing as much as possible and really saying that more is absolutely better for muscle growth. And I would contest that by saying there is a rate limit to how much we can actually synthesize muscle mass. And when we are trying to train, we are trying to send enough of a signal and the right type of signal to our bodies to be able to get the adaptations that we want, whether that is muscle mass gain, strength gain, etc. And so Lee Haney had a really good quote called "Stimulate, don't annihilate," and that's a really good rule of thumb a lot of people have. And the really big thing I think that most lifters need to focus on is learning how to actually train hard and have a high amount of training quality in their program before they try to add quantity to their program, and getting the most out of what maybe people might consider lower volumes. And I think that there's a few reasons for this and why this is beneficial. Number one, learning how to train hard is the most important thing that anybody can learn how to do, and learning how to actually push themselves close to failure for both muscle and strength gains as a beginner. As you get to be more advanced, as somebody who is more interested in strength, you need to pull back a little bit more on that intensity and periodize it differently, but still getting a jack is a very, very important part of getting as strong as possible. In fact, some studies have found that the main difference between advanced lifters as far as strength goes is muscle mass they have on their frame. And how do we build muscle? By learning how to train hard enough to have that signal go to our bodies. Now, some people will say, well, you can just do more volume if you don't train as close to failure. And while they're absolutely correct, there's a few practical flaws with that. Number one is time. Do you really have the time to spend 20 sets per week in the gym doing warm-up sets? I don't. I have better things to do. Second off, there can be more connective tissue issues with more volume that you're doing, and particularly overuse injuries with your tendons, ligaments, joints, etc. And this is something that takes a while to recover from. And as somebody who's gotten their education in athletic training and who understands that the main difference between people that long-term get really jacked, get really strong, is longevity and being able to get control of training time uninterrupted for years and years and years and make slower progress that way. So when trying to learn how do I push myself closer to failure, how do I actually learn how to train with this skill? First off, as a beginner, you're not going to be very good at it. And the good news is that as a beginner, you don't need to go that close to failure because you are, you're so new to the stimulus. But I still think it's important to learn how to lean into that discomfort, that burning, that pain, that really hard feeling early on, because that is where you're going to build the most muscle. And people that are gaining weight but they're not building muscle, they aren't really pushing themselves very hard. It's like they feel that hard rep or slightly hard and it gets to be difficult and then they just stop. Like, for full transparency, when I'm doing a set of 10 RPE 8 hack squat, it's hard from the first rep. Training is supposed to be hard. It is supposed to be challenging. If you feel like that set was like easy and you got through all of your reps just fine, like you're not training. You're just there to move your body. And I used to even have the opinion that that was good. You're still going to get health benefits, and actually, in the absence of performance improvements, fitness improvements, you're not getting a lot of health benefits. Maybe you're getting some cardiovascular benefits, like getting your heart rate up a little bit higher, but you're not going to really get more healthy in the long run. So learn how to lean into the discomfort and that pain. A really good rule of thumb, if you're doing a training block, is I tell my clients, I want you to go until you get some slowdown on that last rep. You really feel pushing past you have to try harder. And then stop there. And then you basically record that and you try to do an extra rep or add 5-10 pounds until you get the fatigue high enough where you have to pull back. But learning how to train hard is going to get you further than anything else is going to in this entire lifting thing. So instead of thinking, and nobody cares about how much volume that you do too. I think that's a big thing to also say. Lots of people tend to hold this as a badge of honor. I do all this volume and I work so much harder. And I'm like, nobody cares how much volume that you're doing if you're not making progress. Not even you. So focus on the right things. Focus on signaling to your body. I really do believe most people can probably get pretty jacked with hypertrophy training style with like 10 sets per week. And they just have a slower burn there, they get stronger. And then only adding volume when you actually need to. And when would you need to add volume? When you are at that set count per week, you're training hard and you're noticing you're recovering just fine, but you're not getting stronger. That's really when you would add volume. And then you add like 1 set at a time. You don't need to add like 1,000,000 sets. That's going to get you hurt. That's going to push you back in progress land, etc. So learn how to train hard. I'll post like some B-roll of like what it looks like on those last reps. But like, yeah, hopefully this is helpful. If you guys have any questions, just let me know.